Before we begin, settle into your space. Adjust your blankets until the weight feels like a protective layer against the world outside. Imagine the room around you dissolving into a different time. A time where the hours were marked not by ticking clocks, but by the movement of the sun and the tolling of a heavy bronze bell. You are stepping into the life of a medieval gravedigger. You are the silent custodian of the village's memory. You live in a small cottage on the edge of the parish, where the air always smells slightly of damp moss and wood smoke. Your hands are rough, your back is strong, and your mind is a ledger of those who have gone before. This is a story of quiet necessity, of the rhythm of the soil, and of the peace that comes when the work is done. Your day starts in the dark. The rooster hasn't even stirred, and the mist is so thick it feels like a physical weight against your door. You rise from your straw pallet, your joints stiff from yesterday's labor. You rub your fingers together, not for warmth, for there is little of that, but to remind them how to bend. You take your tools, the measuring rod, the wooden spade tipped with iron, and the heavy mattock. You walk through the village while it sleeps. To the baker, you are a shadow. To the night, you are a footnote. But to the earth, you are the one who prepares the bed. You reach the churchyard. Today, the task is for Bridge, the midwife. You remember her laughter, a sharp, bright sound that once filled the market. Now, you must measure her space. 6 feet of length, 2 feet of width. You mark the frost with your boot. Crunch. The sound is the only thing in the world. You dig. The first layer is the turf, thick, tangled roots of grass that resist the blade. Then comes the dark, loamy soil that smells of old rain. As you go deeper, the world disappears. There is only the rhythm. Drive the spade. Lift, throw, drive. Lift, throw. Your breath comes in white plumes. By the time you are waist deep, the village is waking up, but you are in a world of your own. You think of the butcher who died mid-sentence and Martha who sang too loud. You treat their resting places with the same care you would give a fine piece of furniture. You smooth the sides of the grave with the back of your spade. You tuck the loose earth around the corners. It is a quiet, unseen holiness. When the sun begins to set, you return to your cottage, feeling the weight of the spade on your shoulder like an old friend. The candle in your cottage finally gives up its ghost. The wick curls into a blackened spiral, and for a moment, the scent of hot tallow hangs heavy in the air. You are wrapped in the heavy wool of your blanket. Outside, the world is turning a deep, bruised blue. This is the hour when the owls cease their hunting and the foxes return to their dens. You listen to the house. The timber beams groan as they contract in the deepening cold. You find yourself watching the hearth. There is one ember left, a single, glowing eye of orange buried deep in the grey ash. You reach for the iron poker. You move the ash aside and feed the ember a few shavings of dried pine. The smoke rises, thin and white, coiling like a ribbon in the dark. Morning arrives with a slow, grey thinning of the dark. You step out into a world transformed by silver frost. Every blade of grass, every branch of the hawthorn is coated in a delicate, crystalline armour. You begin the walk back to the churchyard. Your boots make a rhythmic crunch, crunch, crunch on the frozen earth. You reach the lich gate. The oak beams are frosted white. You look out over the rows of stones. Under the frost, the distinction between the rich and the poor is gone. The knight's ledger and the beggar's mound are both draped in the same silver shroud. You see the yew tree, the oldest thing in the parish. Its roots go down further than any grave you have ever dug, touching the hands of the people you buried years ago. Today, there is no grave to dig. Today is for maintenance. You walk to the oldest section of the yard where the stones have begun to lean. You find a stone sunk deep into the moss and clear away the dead ivy. You reveal the lichen, pale greens, vivid oranges, dusty greys. You find a name, Elias. You don't know who he was, but you whisper his name into the mist. You set your iron bar and find the leverage. You hear the wet suck of the mud as the stone moves. Inch by inch, the stone rises. You aren't just moving rock. You are moving history. When it is finally upright, the frost starts to melt, turning into tiny beads of water that run down the face of the stone like tears. The sun is a pale, heatless disk. It is time to go back. You have straightened the stones. You have spoken the names. You walk back through the village, passing the tavern where laughter leaks through the heavy door. You belong to the quiet. You reach your cottage. The fire has burned down to a warm, comforting glow. You hang your cloak and sit in your chair. You pick up your ledger and your goose feather quill. You write, "The silver frost held the stones today. Elias stands straight again. The yew tree is watching." You close the book. The thud of the parchment is the final sound of your day. You lean your head back. The warmth of the fire reaches your knees. You are not a knight. You are not a merchant. You are the man who minds the threshold. And as the last of the light fades, you feel the earth, not as a weight, but as a bed. The silence returns. It is a kind silence. It is a patient silence. Close your eyes. The day is done. The stones are straight. The names are remembered. Rest now. The world begins in grey. You wake to the sound of your own breath, a small cloud of white in the frozen cottage. You reach for your boots. The leather is stiff, cold as a dead man's hand, until the heat of your feet begins to soften it. You walk to the churchyard. The grass doesn't bend today. It breaks. Snap, snap, snap. Under the silver frost, the churchyard looks like it has been dipped in liquid tin. You find the plot for Elias. The earth is stubborn. The first 3 inches are a frozen crust, a door locked tight by the winter. You use the pickaxe. The sound is a sharp clink that echoes off the stone walls of the chapel. You work until the sweat runs down your back, even as your nose is numb with the chill. Scholars often debate the physical toll on medieval labourers. While we often imagine them as shorter than modern humans, skeletal remains of gravediggers and stonemasons frequently show massive bone density in the shoulders and forearms, the biological record of a lifetime spent fighting the earth. Eventually, you break through to the soft, dark belly of the soil. It is warmer down here. You can smell the ancient rot of leaves and the mineral scent of deep stone. You dig until the sun is a pale, weak eye in the sky. You return home, your muscles humming with a dull, honest ache. The morning brings the rain, not a storm, but a soaker, a fine, relentless grey mist that turns the world into a smudge of charcoal and lead. It drums a steady, hypnotic rhythm against your leather hood. Tap, 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 tap. Today, you are clearing an old slumped corner of the yard where the weeds have grown thick as a man's wrist. The mud is different today. It is heavy. It clings to your spade like thick porridge. Every lift is a struggle. Every step is a wet, sucking sound. Shh, lop. As you turn over a spadeful of heavy clay near the old boundary wall, something catches the dull light. Not a bone, not a stone. You kneel, the mud seeping through the wool of your breeches. It is an iron key, large, heavy, and eaten by rust. There is no house near here. There is no gate that this key would fit. You turn it over in your hand. It is cold. It feels heavy, with a secret it no longer has a mouth to tell. You imagine a woman burying it here 100 years ago, or a thief hiding his prize in the one place no one would dare to dig. You slip it into your pocket. It clinks against your measuring rod, a small metallic reminder of a mystery lost to the mud. Archaeologists frequently find non-traditional grave goods in medieval plots: keys, coins, or even small shears. While the church officially discouraged burying objects with the dead, the old folkways persisted. Some believe a key buried near a wall was intended to lock a spirit in place, or perhaps to offer them a way through the gates of the next world. The rain intensifies. It washes the mud from your spade, leaving the iron head gleaming like silver. You watch the water fill the hollows of the old graves, creating miniature dark lakes. The world is liquid. You are liquid. You go home and hang your sodden cloak by the fire, watching the steam rise like a ghost from the fabric. The wind has found its voice. It comes from the north, a biter that whistles through the gaps in the stone tower. It shakes the yew tree until the ancient branches groan like a ship at sea. You are at the edge of the yard, repairing a fallen section of the stone wall. The stones are slick with moss. You hear a step behind you. It is Thomas, the parish clerk. He is a thin man with a nose as red as a winter berry and a voice like dry parchment. "Cold enough to freeze the prayers in your throat," Thomas says, huddling into his furs. "You don't stop your work. You fit a heavy flint into a gap." "The earth doesn't feel the wind, Thomas. It's only us mortals who complain." Thomas huffs a small laugh. "The priest wants the ledger updated. He says your handwriting is getting earthy." "My hands are for spades, not quills," you mutter. "Still," Thomas says, leaning in. He asks about the woman in the corner, the one with the violets. "People are talking. They say you spent too long smoothing her grave." You stop then. You look at the wind-whipped violets in the distance. "She was a neighbor, Thomas. Every soul deserves a smooth bed, even the ones the village wants to forget." Thomas looks at you for a long moment, then nods once. He leaves a small loaf of bread on the wall, still warm, and scurries back to the warmth of the vestry. The interaction stays with you. The small talk of the living feels thin compared to the heavy silence of the stones. You finish the wall. Your fingers are raw from the stone, but the wall is straight. It will stand for another 100 years of wind. The sun has gone down behind the hills, leaving a streak of violet and orange that looks like a bruise on the sky. You are back in your cottage. The fire is a low, humming roar in the hearth. You take the iron key from your pocket and set it on the table. In the firelight, the rust looks like dried blood. You pick up your ledger. The parchment is thick and yellow. You write, "Rain all day." The clay was heavy as lead. "Found a key near the north wall. It belongs to no door I know." Thomas came by. He worries too much about the living. The wall is fixed. You set the pen down. You watch the ink dry. It turns from a glossy black to a dull matte finish. Outside, the wind is still howling, but in here there is only the sound of the settling ash. You think of the key. You think of Elias. You think of the silver frost that will surely return tonight. You feel a deep, profound peace. You are the keeper of the end. You are the one who makes sure that everyone eventually has a place to rest. Your eyes grow heavy. The firelight flickers against the wall, casting shadows that look like the branches of the yew tree. The world is quiet now. The rain has stopped. The key is on the table. The ledger is closed. The earth is waiting, and you are ready for sleep. The world does not change all at once. It happens in the size of the trees and the way the mud begins to lose its shine. You wake before the sun, as you always do. The air in the cottage is so still, it feels like glass. You reach for your tunic, which has spent the night draped near the dying embers. It is not warm, but it is no longer damp. You sit on the edge of your pallet and listen. The usual morning sounds, the rustle of the thatch, the scurrying of mice, are absent. There is a new kind of silence outside. It is heavy. It is padded. You stand, your knees giving a dry, woody pop, and move to the door. When you push it open, the world is gone. In its place is a landscape of soft white wool. The first snow of the year has arrived, not as a storm, but as a quiet trespasser. It is thin, barely the thickness of a communion wafer, but enough to blur the lines between the road and the ditch, between the living world and the yard. You step out. The snow is dry, the kind that doesn't stick to your boots but swirls around them like dust. You walk toward the lich gate. Every breath you take feels like a sip of well water, cold and sharp. You notice the birds are silent. They are huddled in the ivy of the church tower, waiting for the world to decide if it is truly winter or merely a rehearsal. Medieval winters were often categorized not by temperature, but by the state of the road. A white road meant the ground was frozen enough for travel. A black road meant the mud was deep and treacherous. For a gravedigger, a white road was a curse, as the frost turned the earth into iron. In the churchyard, the snow has levelled the mounds. The rich and the poor are equally hidden now. You take your long iron rod, the one you use to feel the depth of the soil, and begin to walk the north wall. This is the old section. The ground here is uneven, haunted by the shadows of those buried during the great mortality generations ago. You thrust the rod into the earth. Thump. It hits something hard. Not a rock, not a root. The sound is hollow, like a drum made of old wood. You frown. You know every inch of this yard, or so you thought. You brush away the snow with your gloved hand, then use your spade to peel back the frozen turf. Underneath the frost, you find a slab of grey limestone, no larger than a loaf of bread. It has no name, it has no date, but carved into the centre is a single, perfect circle with a cross inside it. A consecration mark, or perhaps something older. You leave it be. Some things are buried for a reason, and in your trade, curiosity is a heavy thing to carry. As you work, a figure appears at the gate. It is the widow Maribel. She is wrapped in so many shawls she looks like a bundle of grey wool. She doesn't speak. She never does. She simply walks to the grave of her son, brushes a patch of snow away, and leaves a small dried bunch of rosemary. "The earth is sleeping, Maribel," you say softly. She looks at you, her eyes like polished pebbles. "It's not sleeping," she whispers, her voice catching on the cold air. "It's just holding its breath." By midday, the sky turns the colour of a bruised plum. The snow turns to rain, a soaker that eats through the white blanket in minutes. The world turns from silver to a dark, glistening charcoal. You are digging a new plot near the yew tree. The rain makes the clay slick. It smells of iron and old copper. You find that the deeper you go, the warmer the earth feels against your hands. It is a strange trick of the mind, perhaps, but the deep earth always feels like it has kept a bit of the summer's heart hidden away. Drive, lift, throw. The water trickles down the back of your neck. You don't mind. The rain is honest. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. You find a small carved wooden bird in the spoil, a child's toy perhaps, lost during a burial 50 years ago. The wood is black and soft, nearly turned back into the earth itself. You set it on a dry stone beneath the yew tree's canopy. In the 14th and 15th centuries, the theology of decay was a central part of life. The speed at which a body or an object returned to the earth was seen as a reflection of the soul's journey. A toy found in the soil wasn't just trash. It was a memento mori, a reminder that all man-made things are temporary. The afternoon light is failing. In the winter, the sun doesn't set so much as it simply gives up. You gather your tools. The spade is heavy now, caked in the grey-blue clay of the lower depths. You scrape the blade clean with a piece of flint. You walk to the chapel to return the heavy iron key to the priest. The interior of the church is a forest of shadows. The smell of incense and damp stone is so thick you could almost taste it. The priest, Father Thomas, is lighting a single tallow candle. "A hard day, brother?" he asks. "The earth was heavy today, Father. It didn't want to open." "Perhaps it's tired," he says, the candlelight dancing in his tired eyes. "It has been carrying us a long time." You nod. You leave the key on the vestry table. As you walk back to your cottage, the wind picks up. It's a whistler now, pulling the last of the dead leaves from the oaks and casting them across the churchyard like tiny brown ghosts. Back in your cottage, the fire is a low orange growl. You sit in your chair, the wood smooth and moulded to your shape by years of rest. You pull the ledger toward you. The ink is cold, and you must hold the pot near the hearth for a moment, so it will flow. You write. First snow came and went. Found the marked stone by the north wall, left it in peace. The wooden bird returned to the light for a moment, then sat under the yew. The rain has washed the world clean for tomorrow. You close the book. You watch the last of the tallow candle burn down. The flame flickers, leaps once, and then vanishes, leaving only a thin grey ribbon of smoke. The darkness is not a void. It is a blanket. You lean your head back. Your hands, still stained with the faint scent of the deep clay, rest in your lap. The wind outside is a lullaby. The earth is settled. The names are safe in your book. The wind today does not blow, it hunts. It comes from the high moors, a cold, invisible hand that pulls at the thatch of your roof with restless fingers. You wake to a sound like a bone flute, the wind catching the narrow slit of your window, singing a high, mournful note that has no beginning and no end. You sit up. The floor is like ice. You don't rush. In this life, haste is the enemy of craft. You pull on your heavy woolen hose, then your leather jerkin, feeling the stiffness of the hide against your chest. Today is a heavy day, not because of the soil, but because of the name. Old Master Hob has passed. He was the village's elder, a man who could read the clouds like a book and knew which herbs would break a fever and which would bring a sleep from which one does not wake. He was 90 years old, a miracle of bone and stubbornness. Now, the village has asked you for the best bed in the yard, beneath the ancient oak where the ground is sheltered from the worst of the north wind. You step outside, and the wind nearly takes your breath. It smells of salt and distant snow. As you walk toward the churchyard, you see them. The ravens. They are perched on the stone wall like a row of hooded monks. They don't fly away when you approach. They simply tilt their heads, their black, bead-like eyes following the movement of your spade. In the village, they call them the Black Watch. They say the ravens know who is coming before the bell even tolls. In the medieval imagination, ravens were complex symbols. While often associated with battlefields and death, they were also seen as protectors of sacred ground. Some rural parishes even kept raven ledgers, noting the number of birds present at a funeral as an omen of the soul's journey. A full watch of 7 or more was considered a sign of a life well lived. Digging beneath the oak is a different labor. The ground here is a map of roots, thick, twisting cables of wood that have been drinking from the earth since before your grandfather was born. You cannot simply drive the spade. You must use the small handsaw and the chisel. Every time you cut a root, the scent of damp wood and ancient tannin fills the air. It's a bitter smell, like dark ale left too long in the sun. The wind howls above you, caught in the skeletal branches of the oak, but down in the hole, it is quiet. You are 3 feet down now. The walls of the grave are a rich, dark umber, speckled with bits of white flint that spark when your iron tool strikes them. You find a piece of blue glass deep in the clay. It's smooth, shaped like a teardrop. It doesn't belong here. It's a fragment of something old, perhaps a vessel from a time when the Romans walked these hills. You hold it up to the grey light. It is the only blue thing in a world of brown and grey. You don't put it in your pocket. You tuck it into a small niche you carve into the side of the grave. A secret gift for Master Hob, a bit of colour for his long dark. Drive, chisel, lift, throw. The ravens shift on the wall. One of them lets out a low, guttural crack. It sounds like the earth itself clearing its throat. You look up. The village is quiet. No one comes to watch you work today. They are all in their homes, out of the wind, preparing the feast for the man who saw them all into the world and will now see them no more. As the light begins to turn to a thin, watery gold, you hear the crunch of boots on the path. It is Hobb's granddaughter, Elspeth. She is carrying a basket covered with a clean white cloth. She stops at the edge of the mounds, her face pale and tucked into her hood. "Grandfather always said you were the most honest man in the parish," she says. Her voice is small, but it carries through the wind. "Because you never ask the earth for more than it can give." She sets the basket on a flat stone. "For your strength," she whispers. Then she turns and walks back, her cloak fluttering like a wounded bird in the gale. You climb out of the grave, your muscles burning. You open the basket. The steam rises up, smelling of heaven. Inside is a funeral pie, thick crust filled with venison and dried plums, and a small stone jar of warmed cider, wrapped in wool to keep the heat. You sit on the roots of the oak and eat. The crust is flaky and salt-dusted. The cider is sharp and sweet, flavoured with cloves. You feel the warmth spread from your chest to your fingertips. It is more than food. It is an acknowledgement. In a world that fears your shadow, this is the village saying, "We see you. We thank you." Historian's Corner. The sin-eater is a common trope in folklore, but the reality was often the grave feast. The community would provide the best of their larder to the gravedigger and the stonemasons. This wasn't just charity, it was a ritualistic way of ensuring the transition from life to death was handled with strong hands. A well-fed gravedigger was a guarantee of a well-secured soul. The sun drops below the horizon, and the wind finally begins to tire. It drops from a roar to a whisper, a long, hushing sound through the dead grass. You finish the grave. The floor of it is level, the sides as straight as the walls of a cathedral. You walk back to your cottage. The ravens take flight as you pass, a sudden explosion of black feathers against the violet sky. They don't make a sound. They simply vanish into the woods, their watch over for the day. Inside, you light your single candle. The flame is steady now, the draughts silenced by the falling night. You open your ledger. The ink is thick. You write with a slow, deliberate hand. Master Hobbs' bed is ready. Beneath the oak, 6 feet of dark soil and a fragment of blue glass for his journey. The wind brought the black watch to see him in. Elspeth brought the pie. It was good. You look at your hands. The soil is deep in the lines of your palms, like the map of a country you have travelled all your life. You don't wash it all away. It is part of you. You lean back in your chair. The fire is just a pile of glowing rubies in the dark. The wind is gone. The elder is at peace. The ravens are sleeping. And you, the keeper of the threshold, are finished. Close your eyes. Listen to the silence of the frost. The earth is holding its breath. Rest. The morning arrives without a sun. The sky is a vast, unblemished sheet of pearl, blank and soft, pressing down upon the village with a weight that feels like a promise. It is the kind of sky that swallows sound. You stand in your doorway, dressed for the long hours ahead. Your sheepskin vest is thick and smells of lanolin and wood smoke. Over it you wear your heaviest cloak of boiled wool, cinched tight with a leather belt. You feel the warmth of your own body trapped against your skin. It is a private, secret heat. You pull your hood low. Today, the world is hushed in anticipation. You walk to the churchyard to wait. The grave you dug beneath the oak is still there, its dark mouth a sharp contrast to the grey-white world. The ravens from yesterday are gone, replaced by a velvet silence. Then you hear it, the bell, not a toll of alarm, but a slow, rhythmic thrum that vibrates in the marrow of your bones. The procession is coming. You see them cresting the hill, a slow line of dark shapes against the white horizon. They carry the box you built, the oak boards gleaming with a coat of beeswax. They walk with their heads bowed, their breath blooming in the air like small, grey ghosts. In medieval funeral rites, the passing bell served a dual purpose. It wasn't just to inform the village of a death. It was believed that the vibration of the bronze bell helped to clear the air of unquiet spirits, carving a path of sound for the soul to follow. For a man as respected as Hob, the bell might ring for hours, a metallic heartbeat for the entire parish. The villagers gather in a circle around the oak. Their faces are red from the cold, their eyes wet. Father Thomas speaks, his voice a low murmur that the wind carries away before it can reach the trees. You stand at the head of the grave, your hands resting on the handles of the ropes. As the first prayer ends, the sky finally breaks. It starts as a single flake, spinning lazily down until it lands on the dark wood of the coffin. Then another, and 1,000 more. It is a soft, wet snow. The the kind that clings to eyelashes and settles on wool without a sound. You begin the work. You and the blacksmith's son take the strain. The ropes creak, a slow wooden groan that sounds like a door opening. Lowering a man like Hob is a heavy thing, not just because of the wood and the earth, but because you are lowering 90 years of stories into the dark. As the box reaches the bottom, the snow begins to fill the gap. It gathers in the corners of the grave, a white lace trim against the deep brown clay. Thump. The box settles. One by one, the villagers step forward. They don't throw heavy clods of dirt. They drop handfuls of the soft, snowy earth. It makes a sound like a sigh. Master Hob is being tucked in. You watch as the white flakes begin to cover the oak, slowly turning the dark box into a pale shadow. The world is turning white, and the elder is disappearing into it. The villagers depart, their footprints already filling with snow as they head toward the warmth of the alehouse. You remain. This is your time. The long filling is a solitary task. You take your spade. The iron is cold, but your hands are warm inside your mittens. Shovel, lift, slide. The rhythm is hypnotic. The snow is falling harder now, turning the mound of earth into a white hill. You work with a steady, unhurried grace. Every spadeful of soil you return to the earth is a layer of protection. You are building a roof for a man who spent his life building a village. By the time you are finished, your shoulders ache with a familiar, satisfying throb. The grave is no longer a hole. It is a gentle swell in the earth, perfectly white, perfectly still. The oak tree stands over it, its branches now heavy with the weight of the winter. You lean on your spade for a moment. Your breath is the only thing moving in the churchyard. You feel a strange sense of completion. The ledger is balanced. The elder is home. The physical labor of the gravedigger was often viewed with a mixture of awe and superstition. To the medieval mind, the gravedigger was taming the earth, making the wild soil receptive to the sacred body. Finishing a burial during a snowfall was often seen as a blessed shroud, a sign that the earth had accepted the offering with peace. The walk back to your cottage is a struggle through a world that has lost its edges. The path is gone, buried under 2 inches of soft white. You find your door by the faint orange glow of the embers you left behind. Inside, the air is still and smells of dry herbs. You peel off your cloak. It is heavy with melted snow, and hang it by the hearth. You kick off your boots. You stir the fire, feeding it thick logs of seasoned ash. The flames leap up, casting long, dancing shadows across the stone walls. You take a small earthen jar from the cupboard. It is filled with strong amber ale, brewed by the monks 2 parishes over. You set it near the fire to take the chill off. For dinner, there is a thick pottage of peas and salted pork, and a hunk of rye bread that is hard enough to require dipping. You sit in your chair. You feel the heat of the fire on your shins. You take a long, slow draught of the ale. It is thick and tastes of grain and honey. It warms you from the inside out, meeting the heat of the fire halfway. You look at the empty chair across from you. You think of the blue glass in the wall of the grave. You think of the white snow covering the oak boards. You are tired, but it is a good tiredness. It is the fatigue of a man who has done exactly what he was meant to do. You pick up your ledger one last time. Your hand is steady. You write, "The sky was blank and kind today. Master Hob went down into a bed of white. The snow did the work of a priest. The fire is warm. The ale is strong. All is well. Close your eyes now. The fire is settling. The snow is falling outside your window, a silent curtain between you and the world. Master Hob is sleeping, and now so can you.